Hey everyone, Dale here, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Range Rover Evoque, the 2021 model. For those of you that are new here, if you have a quick check at the description, I'll give you a little bit of information about my background, who I used to work for, why manufacturers listen to my opinion on the various specifications in their vehicles, and why I'm not just some random dude on the internet talking about vehicle specs. But today we're going to do an exercise I would do with a manufacturer, and effectively we're going to go through a couple of specifications that the Range Rover Evoque offers, and whether it's worth it. So if Land Rover charge you £3,000 to jump up in specification, is there £3,000 worth of specification in that vehicle? The only caveat is that this is going to be based on a 3-year valuation. So instead of you buying a vehicle today, in this case the Evoque, if you bought it today and then sold it tomorrow, that's not what this is about. This is if you buy it today and then you're potentially going to sell it in 3 years' time, what that specification is actually worth. Likewise, if you maybe don't want to buy it today, but you actually want to buy it in 3 years' time, is the specification that's included in 3 years' time actually worth it? So it's the same sort of fundamental question and answer, but I'm going to effectively take us through, and I'm going to tell you what I think these specifications are worth and whether the money that Land Rover charges you for it is worth it. So I've recorded my screen as I normally do. You'll be able to see the picture in picture. As we can see there at the top left, I've picked a sort of middle of the road engine just so I could get quite a few specifications to look at. It's the P200 all-wheel drive automatic MHEV or MHEV model. And then on the far left you can see that we've got an Evoque, and then an Evoque S, an Evoque SE and an Evoque HSE. The Evoque in this instance on this engine starts at £36,890. I'll just highlight that there. Then you spend an extra £3,250 to jump up to the Evoque S, and then an additional £3,580 to jump to an SE, and again another additional £3,150 to jump up to the HSE model. So let's see if it's got £3,000, £6,000 and £9,000 worth of specification in these vehicles. If we run down, if you've seen my other videos, you can obviously skip ahead for this bit. I'm just going to talk about wheels for anybody that's new. So in terms of evaluation and the way that we do it in the industry that I work in, we don't add additional value for alloy wheels, and they're very subjective. Style and shape doesn't matter to us. We don't add any additional value for alloys. Basically, the only way that you would add additional value to an alloy wheel or to a vehicle is if the basic model or the base version of that product, in this case the Evoque, came with steel wheels, and then it changed from steel wheels and went to alloy wheels, which would never happen on this particular product because of its price basically, and the market that it sits in. So it doesn't matter that these go from 17s to 20-inch alloy wheels. We see them just as alloy wheels, and therefore there is no benefit to jumping up in the various specifications just to get a different size and style of alloy wheel. So that's the reason why there's zeros across there. There's no additional value. If I scroll down to the exterior lighting, far left we've got LED headlights on the base model and manual headlight leveling. What Land Rover tend to do is they will actually tell you the same description again for each of the models and then add on what is different. Other manufacturers don't do that generally. What they'll do is they'll itemize what every vehicle gets as standard, and then they'll only highlight what is different. So Land Rover do it slightly differently. They just basically repeat themselves as they go through the various specs. So that's why there's a little X there on the second column. So yeah, we've got the S model in the second column there. LED headlights doesn't get any additional benefit because the base version gets it. Manual headlight leveling doesn't get any additional benefit because the base model has it. The only difference here is it's got rear animated directional indicators. I haven't added any additional value to this. There's a very specific reason why. Is because this is based on a 3-year valuation. We need to anticipate and understand that in 3 years' time the car industry will change. Lighting technology will change, exterior design will change, products will change, and it will make, or potentially make, this vehicle look more outdated than it potentially could do in the future. So in 3 years' time, what does the rival Audis look like? What do the rival Mercedes look like? And what does the newer version of Evoque look like with new lighting technology? So rear animated directional indicators don't get any additional value. Moving up in specification to the third column, now we get premium LEDs with signature DRLs. As you can see from the pictures that they've put in there, you can obviously see there's a physical change to the lights. So we would add additional value. It does make the vehicle stand out and look different compared to the products in the lineup. I've added additional value again in 3 years' time of £250. And that is based on what I said before about lighting technology changing and design and things like that. So it might seem quite low. You might think that lights are actually worth quite a lot of money over time, or even over a short time span. That's not really the case, because we always have to think ahead in terms of how design is going to change. And we usually have this information ahead, basically, quite far in advance, maybe 1, 2, even 3 years in advance. So we already know what the next versions of these vehicles are going to look like, and we have to anticipate what that value is going to be in the future. Sticking with the third column, we've got auto high beam assist, automatic headlight leveling, automatic directional indicators, and signature highline taillights. I haven't added any additional value for stuff like that. It's not going to be worth anything in the future in 3 years' time, and somebody's buying decision is not going to be hinged on whether it has automatic headlight leveling when there are other products that probably offer that as standard on models that are lower down in those ranges. So no additional value there. And then it's a carryover onto the HSE, the final column there. It's all exactly the same specification, so there's no additional value there. So if you wanted to jump into an Evoque HSE, specifically because potentially the exterior lighting is going to change on the vehicle, there's no point in doing that. You might as well just stick with the SE model, because that's when all the lighting changes on the exterior. Moving down, we've got the convenience options. So far left, we've got auto dimming interior rear view mirror, heated electric power fold door mirrors with approach lights and automatic dimming driver's side, and a manual tailgate. Next model up, the S, second column. Again, it's just a carryover from what the base model has, so no additional benefit to jumping up to that model. Then we go to the third column. Again, it's a carryover again of what came before in the lineup, but now instead of having a manual tailgate, it's now got a powered tailgate. And I think this is an important feature within the Evoque lineup, although for this price, 35, 40,000 pounds starting list prices, powered tailgates should probably be included as standard on the very basic versions of these. But you do have to actually jump up to the SE model to be able to get a powered tailgate in this instance. And I've added additional value there, around £250. Again, we're looking in 3 years' time. Moving on to the HSE, clear sight interior rear view mirror. I've added £200 there. I have actually used this on an Evoque. It is a great piece of tech, and I basically never turned off the rear camera on the rear view mirror when I had the vehicle on test. So that is why I've added a reasonably significant amount of money onto that, £200, for the convenience of being able to see out of the back really very clearly. Again, it's a carryover for the heated electric power fold door mirrors, so there's no additional value, there's no benefit to jumping up. Powered gestured tailgate. I've added a little bit of extra value here of £100. I do think it's a bit gimmicky, and I do think it is very specific to certain scenarios. Like you've got heavy shopping, or you've got kids, or things like that. But I just don't see if someone's buying decision will be hinged on whether they could unlock their boot or open their boot with their foot. So for me, it adds a little bit of value. I do recognise it, but I'm not going to add a massive amount of value to that. Keyless entry, I've added additional value again of £100. For this level again, a vehicle, £35,000 starting prices, generally going up to be quite expensive. It should really be on the base versions. You shouldn't have to jump up and pay an extra, in theory, £12,000 to get keyless entry. This should be on a much lower specification. You now get this on vehicles that are half the price of this as standard. So I can't really see why there's an argument to have keyless entry on the HSE model. Moving down again to the seating and interior trim, we've got fabric seats on the far left there, 8-way heated manual front seats and leather steering wheel. You jump up then to the S. Now we're moving into the leather seats. I have added quite a significant value change for this again in 3 years' time of £750. Very desirable to have leather seats, especially in a vehicle of this stature and brand and product. So I've added £750. We now go from 8-way to 12-way heated seats I've added, again, additional value there of £150. I do feel like, you know, people being able to get comfortable in their vehicle is worth a little bit of extra money, and people will generally pay so they can get as comfortable as they can, because that's where they'll spend, obviously, most of their time when they're in the vehicle. And again, it's a carryover for the leather steering wheel, so no additional value. Moving on, again, third column, it's the same interior leather seats, the ebony grained. And now, instead of getting the 12-way heated electric seats, you now get the memory function. So I'm not sure whether this is specific to your keys or whether it's literally in the car, and you obviously change you know, the seat position based on the, you know, 1, 2 and 3. But my car, for instance, I have 2 keys, one for myself, one for my wife. If my wife takes her key, it will automatically set the seats up whenever she unlocks the car. So I have added additional value for that. I think it is quite important, and not having to change your seats around every time you get into the vehicle. Leather steering wheel, again, a carryover from the previous model, no additional benefit. Ebony quilted perforated Windsor leather seats on the fourth column there. I haven't added any additional value for that just because it looks different. They are ultimately leather seats, and I'm personally not going to add any additional value to that. Whether you want to do that or not, and you want to pay more because it has specific design and they're Windsor leather seats, that's entirely your decision. But from a valuation perspective, I'm not going to add any value because I see them as you know, leather seats, effectively. And now we go from 12-way heated seats to 14-way electric driver's seats. I've added, again, a little bit of extra value for this, but not a massive amount. You know, you're just talking about the minutiae of being able to get as comfortable as possible. And I haven't added any additional value for a full leather steering wheel. Again, on this level of vehicle, if you're offering a leather steering wheel as standard on the base vehicle, I don't want to have to jump up and pay the extra £12,000 just to get a full leather steering wheel. Doesn't make much sense to me. So if I was advising Land Rover, I'd say, you know, can you pop that on the base version, and you know, see if the customer takes it or not, or would like it. So we move down again to the infotainment. We're nearly at the end now. There's only driver assistance left after this. Far left, Pivi, which is their sort of in-house system where it's, you know, you can work the various functionality on the screens and how easy it is. A sound system, analog dials in the center, TFT display, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. You move up, second column, to the S model, you've got Pivi Pro. Again, it's just something to do with how the functionality works. Apparently it takes out 80%, or it can help out in skipping steps along the way of how you want to use your navigation or various controls within that system. But I haven't added any additional value for that. Online data pack with a plan, no additional value. Sound system, again, this is all carryover from the base version. Moving into the third column for the SE model, again, everything is carryover from the previous model, except now you get an interactive driver's display in front of you, much like the Audi virtual cockpits, and a 10-inch touchscreen with lower touchscreen. You can see just from the visual there on the screenshots, they are obviously clearly different systems, even though the functionality is different. Functionality is the same in terms of the nav and the software that runs it, but visually and the appearance, it does look much better and much more well integrated, and therefore much more desirable and potentially a higher value for having the integration of these systems and the full digital displays. So I've added £1,000 in total for those two items. Moving up to the HSE, the only difference between the SE in the third column and the HSE is that this one gets a Meridian sound system. Anybody who's seen my videos before will know we don't give any additional value for big name sound systems. So if it's Bose, Bang & Olufsen, Meridian in this case, we don't add massive value to them. I've seen systems that are £5,000 on vehicles, and manufacturers are really surprised when I effectively underwrite that value and say, no, actually it's worth this amount of money in the future. We have data that tells us these things anyway. It's not just me just, you know, talking out of thin air. We have information that will tell us what these things are worth in the future and used markets. So £250 there. Moving down to driver assistance, final thing. Far left, emergency braking, 3D surround camera, cruise control, driver condition monitor, lane keep assist, front and rear parking aid, weight sensing. You then move up into the S model. The only thing different now is traffic sign recognition and adaptive speed limiter, which I've added £100 for. Third column on the SE model, you get blind spot assist pack, obviously, so it's telling you which vehicles are where in terms of the wing mirrors and whatnot. An extra £100, I think that is an important piece of specification. And then the final specification on the HSE is it gets a driver assist pack, which comes with things like adaptive cruise. So that's an additional £100. And again, this is 3 years' time. This is not as if you buy it today and then you sell it tomorrow. Obviously, it would be worth more. This is if you buy it today and you sell it in 3 years' time. So if we look at the totals, if you remember at the beginning of the video, generally jumping up from the various specification, it was about a £3,000 increase, £3,500 increase. So if you jump from the base model to the S model in the second column, I think in 3 years' time you get about £1,000 worth of additional value. So it's not the best, it's not the worst I've ever seen, but you do get some value back. There are things that they've included in the spec which are pretty good. So £1,000. If you jump up again to the SE, I actually think you get more specification in this than you do on the models prior to that. So I've totaled up the value of £1,800. So I think for your £3,000 extra that you're going to spend, on top of the 3 that you've already spent, obviously jumping between specifications, you're going to get an extra 1,800 quid. And then if you jump up to the HSE, unfortunately, it seems like they actually don't add as much specification as they potentially should or could based on the price that you have to pay. So I've only got £850 worth of value there. So I think you should get the SE. If it's my money, I would personally get the SE. What I can't do is, I can do it, but it would take me a while, is what the HSE name means to you as a customer. What HSE means to you having that particular product on your driveway, in your street, how it's perceived. So there are legacy values attached to this and what that effectively means. So that means that, if you look at something like the bigger Range Rovers, HSE was always the latest and greatest and the most tech and the most specification, and all they've done is take that and apply it to their vehicles down their product lineup. So I can't apply a value to that and what HSE means to you. So it's more than likely worth more than the £850 I've given here, but I'm just looking purely at the specification. Whether HSE as a name means more to you, then you'll pay accordingly. And again, this is all my opinion, but based on my experience and who I've worked for and things like that and discussions I've had with manufacturers, this is my estimation of what these vehicles are worth in the future market, so in 3 years' time. So I hope you found that interesting. If you did, obviously give it a like. If you want to see more videos, I'm going to do all the Land Rover lineup. Please subscribe, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.